Bolaji, our next speaker, who is a developer advocate at Commerce Layer and will be giving us a talk on doing e-commerce right. No, he will be giving us a talk titled E-commerce Done Right with Commerce Layer. Round of applause in the chat for Bolaji. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Hello, everyone. Good day. It's been a long while since we interacted at physical events, but thanks to amazing folks like the Strapi team who keep bringing us together to connect, irrespective of all that's happening in the world today. My name is Bolaji Ayodeji, and I am a developer advocate at Commerce Layer. So what I do is I stand as a mediator between my company and developers using our products. I try to help developers be successful with our products and their craft generally. I do this by building tools, demos, integrations, open source projects, and documentation. Alongside my work as a developer advocate, I am passionate about sharing knowledge. I do this a lot on my blog and on my newsletter. I'm also passionate about web engineering, Jamstack, communities, and open source. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at I am Bolaji Ayo and maybe tweet one or two things about this talk so my manager thinks I did a great job. All right. In 2019, a study by Marist Pool found out that more than 227 million Americans shop online. Wow. Now, this number was expected to increase in the coming years before a global pandemic forced shoppers to, shop online for essentials. The truth is, more technologies are rising, more stores are erupting, and consumers now shop on more devices. There is hence a need for businesses to adapt to emerging technologies, competitions, and increasing customer demands. Failure to meet up with these demands will lead to unsatisfied customers, which will in turn affect conversions and sales. Today, I'll be talking about headless commerce and how to do it right with Commerce Layer amidst the rapid evolution of digital commerce. All right. So this is pretty much what we're talking about today. But let's just skip this and go right into the talk. So yes, let's start with traditional e-commerce. When we talk about traditional, we mean all e-commerce platforms that were launched 10 years ago or more. Now, traditional e-commerce platforms are built on an architecture called the monolithic architecture. And this is a way of designing software where all the components are built into one independent and deployable application. So those components can include the presentation layer, the database, the business logic, content management system, and much more. So this is just how a traditional e-commerce platform looks like. You have the UI on one end, you have all other components behind it, and every single thing is just in one deployable application. Now, every component or decision made in the development of e-commerce platforms is aimed at satisfying customers. And this is why every engineering decision you make is directly proportional to the business goal of your e-commerce platform. And this is one thing most e-commerce businesses today miss. You hear some businesses say, well, my platform is fine, my business is okay, I make some sales, my customers are happy, and all that stuff. But the truth is, the needs of your customers are increasing daily, the same way technologies are increasing daily. So there's a need for you to review your technical logic behind your commerce and see how that logic is satisfying your users. So it's possible that what you have now is serving your users, but there's probably a better way for you to do that because every single day there is something new coming up. There is more demands coming from your consumers, and you really need to level up and be up to date with whatever demands is coming from your users. Now, three major factors affect the success of e-commerce businesses. One is performance, and this depicts how fast users can access and interact with content on your platform. Next is scalability. Now, you also need to maintain high performance as your traffic increases, right? And the last factor is user experience. And this depicts how satisfied your users are when they interact or engage with your platform. So throughout this talk, we are going to be reviewing what e-commerce was many years ago and how it is now with respect to these factors and how they affect customer satisfaction and business growth. So yeah, now that we know what traditional commerce is, let's take a look at some of the challenges faced with traditional commerce. So generally, traditional e-commerce solution is limited. I mean, it fails to satisfy the evolving needs of 21st century customers. 21st century customers want things fast. They want better user experience and a lot more. But the traditional e-commerce solution doesn't give the technical logic required to satisfy customers. And so some of the challenges traditional commerce encountered include speed and flexibility. Like I mentioned earlier, a traditional e-commerce platform is built on a monolithic architecture. And this architecture couples several components into one deployable application, which means there's going to be a large code base, and this large code base will require high processing time. This can lead to slow load speed time while deploying your applications and in production. Eventually, you have several teams working on your application and they all need to collaborate. But with a large complex system, it's going to be hard for them to understand the, moving parts of the application. The complexity of the application can also lead to ID overload, which would also affect build time. And eventually it affects the productivity of developers. And the most important thing about this flaw is that it becomes hard for developers to test new ideas, to adopt emerging technologies and try to, implement them into your application. The next challenge is cost and scalability. Building an e-commerce platform traditionally takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of engineering resources. Any single change you make to even one component in the application affects the entire application. You have to redeploy the entire application. One of the goals of businesses is to to grow. You want to make more revenue. You want to, get more customers. And while your business grow, your customer base would also grow. So there's a need for you to make sure your platform is efficient as it is when you had fewer customers now that you have more customers. But the problem is with traditional commerce, it's harder for you to scale one component of your application because there will be several requirements of each of these components. One component in your application might require you to scale horizontally, while another might require you to scale vertically. But because all these components are in one application, you really cannot make any change to all of them individually. So you have to upgrade the entire application. And remember, any form of upgrade you make literally just affects the entire application and you need to retest and redeploy. This is not so cool. The next is security and reliability. So security happens to be one of the most significant concerns in software engineering. And if for any reason a security issue arises in just one component of your application, either due to memory leak or an attack, the entire application is vulnerable and it's prone to attack. So this also makes it hard for you to detect where this attack is coming from or detect where the issue is coming from and try to fix it because it's a large application and debugging becomes much more harder. In the long run, when you eventually figure out what the problem is, you still have to go through the same cycle of bundling and redeploying the entire application, and this is not so reliable. And the last challenge I'll talk about today is modularity. With traditional commerce, it's hard to practice structured programming. Modularity allows developers to encapsulate code functionalities into modules that can be reused in other components. But with traditional commerce, it's really hard for you to do that because you cannot You can't just have modules in the traditional commerce platform. And this way it becomes harder for developers to test new features or to rely on reusable models or to even build new features faster because now they have to literally build everything from scratch. Now that we've understood the challenges that exist with traditional commerce, I'm sure now you might be wondering, okay, this exists. So, like, what do we do? There needs to be a solution. And this brings us down to headless commerce. But before we delve into headless commerce, I would like us to understand the concept of headless, which is a very popular term in software engineering. So, headless is a concept that implies that a computer software functions without a graphical user interface. And what this means is the functionalities powering the application are independent of the user interface being displayed to end users. And there's like an intermediary between both ends. So you can see it as a human being, my head is cut off from my body, and my body can function on its own, and I can plug in any head into my body, right? So this literally means I can use my body to power any form of head. I can power Elon Musk's head, I can power Ariana Grande's head. So whatever I want to do, all I need to do is just plug in a new head into my body. I know that sounds really creepy. But yeah, now that we realize that there is an increasing technology rising in the industry, and there is also increasing competition. I mean, more shops are coming up, and your consumers are also demanding for more daily. That means you need to level up and scale up your business to stand out among these competitions. You need to meet the demands of your users, and there is a need for new technology that would help us solve this problem. And this is where headless commerce come into play. Headless commerce is designed to curb many limitations of traditional commerce. With headless commerce, developers can now independently build the presentation layer, the business logic, the database layer, integrations, and utilize some other headless commerce API solutions with no interruption to the customer experience. This is really cool because this is one of the issues we face with traditional commerce. There's a need for us to scale the platform. There's a need for us to, adapt to emerging changes. But then there's friction between several layers that move around in commerce. And with the traditional commerce, it becomes hard and harder day by day for you to make all these changes without interrupting your customer experience. So to put simply, headless commerce is a practice of separating the front end from the back end of an e-commerce store. And this approach allows you to decouple components into independent modules. So you have your front end, which is like the head, separated from the back end. And this allows for more flexibility, better performance, and efficient development. So this is what a headless architecture looks like. First thing to note is that there is no presentation layer when it comes to the headless commerce. The presentation layer is independent. It's like a different entity on its own. And all you have is just APIs. So you can see the business logic, the transactional engine, third-party integrations, and your content management system all working independently and communicating via APIs. And you use the same APIs to connect with your presentation layer on any channel. This can be on any it can be on a website, on mobile apps, or any other device. This is how much flexibility headless commerce provides your business. So now that we understand what headless commerce is, I would like to show you how headless commerce solves the challenges experienced in traditional commerce. So generally, headless commerce brings better performance. It allows for easier scaling, higher security, and much more. But let's take a look at some of the challenges we mentioned earlier in traditional commerce and see what headless commerce does for you. So speed and flexibility. Now we know that with the headless commerce, each component is built independently and they can be deployed independently, which means the issues we're experiencing with high processing time would be reduced. There would no longer be like delays in load time of some web services. And now your UI engineers can, build with their favorite technologies. Your backend engineers can build with their favorite technologies, and your content engineers can work with best of breed CMS. which means every team can work independently and it allows for more flexibility and effective collaboration. Cost and scalability. Now, with the headless commerce approach, you can utilize static site generators to build the pages of your presentation layers, cache them, and serve them over CDN. And this leads to better performance and a less expensive architecture. And as a result of this, it becomes easier for you to scale your platform. With the use of several third-party headless solutions, you can easily scale your platform by default without having to even do so much work. And if you choose to do it manually, it becomes easier for you to scale based on the requirements of components in your application, because now you have the flexibility of working independently on each of those components, which is really cool. Now, when it comes to security, whatever issue that arise in your platform or your architecture, it's easier for you to find and debug them because the complexity of your application is now reduced into like smaller components, and you can easily debug and find issues. You don't have to struggle with trying to deploy the entire application. You can just find an issue that arose from one component, fix it, and just deploy that issue. Now, the APIs in the headless commerce architecture are still prone to minimal attacks. But the good thing is you can leverage on third-party headless solutions to manage the security of your application. I mean, this is really cool because you don't have to worry about, working 247 to ensure that your application is secured. You can just leverage on a solution whose full job is to ensure your application is secured. And in the long run, it makes your application so reliable. And lastly, modularity. Like you can imagine, now it's easier for you to encapsulate code functionalities into modules and reuse them in several other components in your application. And now your developers can test new features, build new features, and adapt to new technologies easier than you could have done before. Now that we understand what headless commerce is and how it solves most of the issues, I mean, all of the issues you experience with traditional commerce, I would like to introduce you to Commerce Layer, which is a solution that supercharges the headless commerce architecture. So Commerce Layer is a headless commerce platform and order management system that lets you add global shopping capabilities to any presentation layer with ease. And what this means is Commerce Layer is a commerce API for developers. We provide you with tons of APIs that you can use to supercharge your headless commerce platform. It's purely transactional. We manage all the transactional data and functionality of your platform, and you can integrate with any CMS of your choice, like the amazing Strapi, and add international shopping capabilities to any presentation layer. You can handle all your transactional functionalities on Commerce Layer, integrate with the best tools you use, the best of breed CMS you use, and you can now make your content, or rather your product, shoppable on a global scale. So first, Commerce Layer provides you with a dashboard where you can structure your e-commerce business models. You can, create some SKUs and do some structuring to your organization. And we also provide you with an order management system, a return management system, and commerce APIs for you to integrate into your preferred stack, into your preferred CMS like Strapi and preferred technologies. So now it becomes much more easier for you to work with headless commerce because now you are able to segment your business logic and your transactional functionalities away from your presentational layer. Now, there are three key building blocks of Commerce Layer, which is headless, transactional, and global. First is with Commerce Layer, you can now decouple your presentation layer from your core business. I mean, you can now have one backend powering multiple storefronts. It's now easier for you to manage all the transactional data of your business on Commerce Layer and use that data to power several channels. Now, it's also important for you to note that Commerce Layer is not an e-commerce site builder where you can, drag and drop stuff and build your presentation layer, add some content behind, and then, like bootstrap an entire e-commerce application. No, no, no. And that brings us to the second key factor, which is transaction. So Commerce Layer manages the transactional data and functionalities of your e-commerce platform, which separates content from commerce. So Commerce Layer is not a content management system. We don't manage your content. You manage your content on your most preferred content management system like Strapi, and we give you the flexibility of integrating your content from your CMS into your e-commerce platform. Now, this transactional data can include your prices, stock, orders, and much more. And the last factor, or rather the last building block, is global. So Commerce Layer helps you to sell in multiple markets with independent business logic for each of those markets without any form of data duplication. So for an example, you have like you sell in London, in Nigeria, in China, or several other countries. With Commerce Layer, you can now have different models for each of those markets because every single market will have their own requirements, and there's a need for you to structure those markets independently. But now with one single account on Commerce Layer, you can structure the markets for each of your businesses, and you don't have to duplicate content because now you have just one data powering all your applications, rather powering all your markets, and you can use that same data to like independently derive or set up your markets. Unlike the traditional commerce where if you would want to, let's say, scale to different countries, you have to like have a different set of data for that particular market. But now with one data, you can just structure several markets. So now that we understand the building blocks of Commerce Layer, let's take a look at how Commerce Layer supercharges your digital experiences. Now, what you should know is Commerce Layer is an API first platform. And as a result of that, we support Headless Commerce natively. I mean, Commerce Layer provides you with commerce APIs for tons of stuff like inventory, order management, shopping carts, checkout, promotions, shipments, and much more. Now, the thing is, Commerce Layer gives you the flexibility you need to, scale up the headless commerce architecture and grow your business. Commerce Layer was built with a vision to solve a problem that was prominent in the traditional commerce era. And here's a quote from our CEO. The best projects are always driven by creativity. But the problem is that creatives and engineers generally have conflicting priorities. The former always push for innovation and creativity, while the latter push for security and stability. And this is a big problem because we've identified that technologies are rising daily. There's more competition in the market, and you want to stand out. You want your customers to be happy. But every experience you give your customers come from the technical logic of your commerce application rather. So for you to satisfy your customers, there's a need for you to, put in the best in the engineering logic of your business. So now that your UI engineers and content engineers want to be creative and innovative to solve the experience problem, your engineers also want to ensure that the platform is stable and scalable. So while they're both working in one complex and monolithic architecture, it becomes harder for them to collaborate and, make the best out of what they do. And this is why the headless commerce exists. So Commerce Layer promotes best of breed approach that encourage engineering teams to integrate the tools of their choice. I mean, this allows every team to have an agnostic setup. Your front-end team can use the best tools they want to use. Your back-end team can use the best tool they want to use. The content team can use the best CMS they want to use so as to achieve the aim of satisfying your customers. And along the line, this leads to effective product development flow and collaboration. And this is an example of what the headless commerce architecture looks like with Commerce Layer. So we have three building blocks. We have Commerce Layer, we have your headless CMS like Strapi, and we have your code repository. So as a merchant, you go into Commerce Layer, you structure your organization, you add some prices, you add some SKUs, which depicts items you're selling in your organization. And you don't manage any form of content on Commerce Layer. So what you do now is your content editors go straight to Headless Commerce and you import SKUs from Commerce Layer into your Headless CMS using our webhooks, and then you're able to like prepare the product catalog for that particular item. And now your UI engineers and your backend engineers are also working simultaneously, building the best experience you can deliver to your customers. And with this, you can serve the code, serve your content, and serve this transactional data to the CDN. And with APIs, you just do all the amazing stuff you want to do on the client side on your application. And also, one other cool thing is as customers make purchases on your platform, with one of our commerce APIs, you can send requests back to commerce layer, which now like tables those orders in the order management system. And as a merchant, you can go ahead and fulfill those orders there. Same applies to the return management system, which helps you to manage returns. I mean, there's tons of cool stuff you can do with commerce layer and the headless commerce architecture. And this just shows you a background context to how all that work. Now, there's a lot you can build with Commerce Layer. You can build a new e-commerce website from scratch. You can make your existing website shoppable on, even if it's a mobile app. You can have like, let's say, an ebook website where you sell ebooks, and you can just use Commerce Layer to make that particular website shoppable. You can make your existing wearable device or voice devices shoppable. You can make print catalogs shoppable. I mean, anything that involves exchanging money for goods and services over the internet can be made possible with Commerce Layer. We have tons of commerce APIs that would help you bring your ideas to life and serve these ideas on several channels like your mobile devices, laptops, desktop computers, voice devices, QR codes, chatbots, even IoT devices, and much more. So now, despite all the mouth-watering benefits, Commerce Layer is not the right solution for everyone. I know that's sad. So, if you're a small business with small requirements, maybe you also have a single market presence and just a few engineering resources, and you also have a desire to start selling as soon as possible, then Commerce Layer might not be the best fit for you. Because I mean, you just have a few resources you want to sell quickly. So you don't really have the engineering resources and time to invest into building the best experience for your customers. So you probably want to rely on teams and some site builders like set up your UI quickly, and you just want to go to the market quickly. And also, you would no longer be able to utilize the global capabilities Commerce Layer provides for you. But however, if you are a growing brand and you want to expand your business internationally, you want to take full control of your content and your user experience, you also want to increase conversion and revenue, then Commerce Layer is the best fit for you because we have all you need to grow your business. So, it is dangerous to have unsatisfied customers in this modern and competitive and fast evolving age. Hence, there is need for new and modern technologies and architectures like headless commerce and commerce layer to eliminate factors causing dissatisfaction and improve the business and technical logic in commerce. And this brings us to the end of this talk. So I want you to review what you have currently and take a look at the architecture your business has and decide if you are actually satisfying your customers and if you are meeting up with emerging technologies. And if you'd like to know more about headless commerce, please check out our comprehensive headless commerce guide, which will take you through most of what we discussed today in detail and how Commerce Layer can help you achieve your e-commerce needs. You can also check out our core concepts, which covers most of the core concepts of headless commerce that we care about at Commerce Layer. We also have a data model document that covers the relationships between several resources in our commerce APIs. So you might check this out first, just to get an idea of what Commerce Layer look like before you get started. We also have some open source projects on GitHub that you can utilize to, develop your project and bootstrap everything faster. So thank you so much for listening. Feel free to leave your questions. I would be replying to them on Discord, and I would also share links to the resources mentioned in this talk in Discord. Thank you to Google and GitHub for some images used in my slide. And yeah, thank you so much.
I don't know about everyone, but it's starting to look like e-commerce is really, really hot. Thank you so much, Bolaji, for that amazing talk. Super stoked to have you at the conference. Side note, I know Bolaji outside Strapi Conf, so it's really great to see him come here and interact with the Strapi community.